Charlie Kirk makes an admission here that I think Democrats should listen to, because Kirk knows all about losing. He knows all about it. I mean, his Turning Point USA efforts around the country to deprogram liberal college students have been, by every metric, a spectacular failure. His number one focus in the, was it 2020 or 2022 election cycle? Was it Arizona? 2022, right? In driving turnout, resulted in, because it was the Kari Lake race. Yeah.
Big time losses
all across the board. Has had no success on this front.
But on the other hand, Kari Lake's had a lot of time to appear on his shows.
And she's about to run for Senate herself, by the way. So that is another interesting wrinkle. But he knows all about it. He knows what is going to win for Democrats and what is going to lose, since he's experienced it firsthand. And I agree with him here that if the 2024 election is about abortion, Republicans will lose. So Democrats, make it about that.
Just a little reminder, this is President Trump, the first president ever speaking at the March for Life. Play cut 161.
Cannot know what our citizens yet unborn will achieve, the dreams they will imagine, the masterpieces they will create, the discoveries they will make. But we know this: every life brings love into this world. Every child brings joy to a family. Every person is worth protecting. And above all, we know that every human soul is divine, and every human life, born and unborn, is made in the holy image of Almighty God.
It's Mike Lee behind him, by the way.
That's right there, bigger than some sort of heated moment where DeSantis gets brought up with Kristen Welker. Forget that. That's like a bar fight. This is right there, straight communication of Imago Dei. And then he also did it.
What?
He enacted it. Here's something that we as pro-life activists, though, are not honest about. Well, I am, and I get criticized for this. If the 2024 election is a referendum on abortion, we will lose. If it is just about abortion, we will lose. America is not as pro-life as I am. I know this. I know this from talking to moderate suburban Republicans that say, Charlie, I'm with you on every issue except the abortion issue. I know this on campuses where it is by far the number one issue. And now the perspective that some of you might say is, but Charlie, we can't waver on moral clarity. I agree with that. I do. But what Trump is trying to say, though, is there any sort of deal that could be struck where you have one side saying you can abort a baby up to the minute of death? I mean, up to the minute of, you could basically kill a baby right there up into the moment of birth.
Pause. Sorry, you don't need to cut back to Emma, but I was just say, like,
he got confused.
He fucked up because you said that he was going to say the moment of life, admitting that before birth, it's not a living being.
Yes. Also, when he said Imago Dei there, apparently that means image of God, which I just Googled.
Imago Dei? Is that that's a standing kind of phrase?
Yeah, I guess it is some sort of, I mean, in Latin it means Imago Dei, or I mean, it means image of God.
Sounds
so
good.
He's just, he was trying to show how pro-life he is by,
busting out the Latin.
Right, exactly.
And that doesn't mean it's not an important issue. For me, it's one of my top issues, and it remains that way. But excuse me when I don't get into the outrage cycle by certain commentators when a friend of mine, President Donald Trump, who did more for the unborn, is trying to strike a deal. He already proved he's been pro-life, extremely pro-life. I'll talk more about this after the break.
I thought you were adding that or something, but I guess that's his break music. Yeah. So Tim Pool and Charlie Kirk and other right-wing commentators have been trying really hard to find ways to support Trump over DeSantis.
The DeSantis approach has clearly failed, and a pivot needs to be made.
Exactly, and the idea that Trump is more pro-life than DeSantis seems silly to me. From like a platform basis, like Ron DeSantis is clearly a much more ideologically committed Republican than Trump is. And Trump, there were rumors that he was very much pro-abortion when, he would say he was sleeping with a bunch of different women that were not his wife, for example. And that would not shock me whatsoever. But in practice, Charlie's right that you can draw a direct line from the Trump presidency to the overturning of Roe v. Wade because of the people that he put on the Supreme Court.
Because you need to win. Yeah. In order to do any of this stuff, you do need to win. And he's right about that.
And at some other point in the clip, he mentions like the ballot measure in Kentucky, for example, the ballot measure in Kansas, the ballot measure in Ohio, leading to what we'll have in November of this year. Mm-hmm. He's what Charlie, I think, is getting at in opposition to people like Marjorie Danfelser, like she's like one of the head of the biggest right to life organizations, who is like angry at Trump, or like Governor Kim Reynolds in Iowa, who's angry at Trump for saying, or Kemp in Georgia saying like DeSantis's 6-week abortion ban is terrible and like is not like politically feasible. Right. Basically, is Kirk saying, look past the rhetoric and look at the results for both wins and losses.
Good point.
Trump gave us the repeal of Roe v. Wade. Like, why would I ever care enough about him saying something about like DeSantis's abortion policy?
He's 100% right.
When we know what that is. And also, as he's saying, would it be the worst thing to hew that message for a general election so Trump can win and do those things that you want him to do? Like, he's actually one of the few people to see that like there's actually no utility in giving him a purity test like that.
Well, Charlie's not dumb. Like, I mean, he knows how he's wasted a ton of money for people who have donated to Turning Point USA. And the problem is like young people are disillusioned by the Republican Party for the things that Charlie describes. No amount of indoctrination in going to college campuses is going to change the fact that people who go to college that are younger overwhelmingly support the right to an abortion, and not up to the point of death, life, that Charlie indicated there. 90% of abortions happen in the first trimester. The rest are overwhelmingly closer to the first trimester than they are to the point of birth. And the ones that happen close to the end of like the gestational period for a person who can get pregnant, a person who can give birth, are because of severe medical emergencies where the life of the mother is in danger and potentially the baby is not viable outside of the womb. Mm-hmm. So that is why there should not be those guardrails in place, because it could result in the death of a woman. Or a person who's giving birth.
Just to be clear, if I was anti-abortion, I would be 100% in agreement with Charlie Kirk, because power it's delivering power to the coalition that is more aligned with what you want to see done, is all politics is. And concern yourself too much with campaign rhetoric and that sort of stuff is not that interesting to me. But the one difference is and why say our position and how our relationship with the Democratic Party is different than Charlie Kirk's, is that what we want is actually majority popular.
Yes.
We don't have to say look, we know that the American people are against single payer, but we gotta take our wins when we can get them. Charlie recognizes that his particular preferred set of policies is anathema to most people, and yet he's pursuing it anyway, and it's fascinating.
And you have to you gotta put it on the back burner for their political project, is essentially what he's saying. So my lesson to the Democrats is don't do that, because with a weak candidate at the top of the ticket, and Biden is almost certainly going to be the nominee, barring any kind of medical emergency. You need to have issue sets that motivate people. And negative partisanship about Trump and about abortion are what Democrats need to carry the day. But is this the clip of DeSantis? Let's play this then. This is the clip of Trump talking about DeSantis?
Hey, this is the clip that DeSantis War Room posted, thinking oh, this is a huge gotcha. And actually, no, this is a signal that A, Trump ain't worried about you, and B, he's thinking about the general.
Mr. President, I want to give voters who are going to be weighing in on this election a very clear sense of where you stand on this.
I think they're all going to like me. I think both sides are going to like me.
What's
going to have to happen is you're going to have to
ask this question.
Listen,
please.
You're asking me a question. What's going to happen is you're going to come up with a number of weeks or
Sorry, that's so funny to be like, listen, you're asking me a question. I'm going to talk over you and answer it the way I want it.
Yeah. She didn't even get the question out. No. Okay. He just wants to talk about what he wants to talk about.
You're going to come up with a number that's going to make people happy, because 92% of the Democrats don't want to see abortion after a certain period of time.
If a federal ban landed on your desk, if you were reelected, would you sign it at 15?
Are you talking about a complete ban?
A ban at 15 weeks.
Well, people are starting to think of 15 weeks. That seems to be a number that people are talking about right now.
Would you sign that?
I would sit down with both sides and I'd negotiate something, and we'll end up with peace on that issue for the first time in 52 years. I'm not going to say I would or I wouldn't. I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? You think that goes too far?
I think what he did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake.
Oh my gosh, amazing. I mean, look, that's not even true, really, right? The 5-week, 4-week, that's not accurate. But either way, Trump is pivoting towards the general on that. It's amazing that the 15-week ban is now going to be the middle ground that's like struck in this way. Because honestly, I still think it's a general election liability once that issue gets fleshed out. That was part of what McConnell was so afraid of, because that was what Lindsey Graham proposed as the federal ban in the wake of Roe v. Wade getting overturned.
The question, I mean, this is fun with polling. Like the question of like, do you think there should be some number so people can't get an abortion right before the expected due date or whatever? But if you ask it, like, do you think that the government should put a sort of judge in between a woman and her doctor? Do you think like we should basically make this a criminally watched thing? Like that's very unpopular. And
Charlie Kirk knows it. Yeah. And then it is all about the framing too, because when you say, should there be a limit on when a woman can get an abortion, none of the context that I just gave is going to be embedded in that, which is that the only time those abortions really happen that late are when the life of the mother is in question, when there's a medical emergency, when there's an issue with the fetus. And those are all decisions that are made by doctors. Like the idea that there's these secret doctors looking to murder babies behind the scenes when they are viable outside the womb. It's just not it's just
hysterical.
It's complete nonsense.
And we have one comment. Why not just get the American Medical Association to come to a general consensus among practicing medical professionals on the morality of 15 weeks and pull the license of doctors who murder? And I'll just gotta say, like, I couldn't disagree more. First of all, there are a lot
of doctors who are crazy. Like, I mean, there are doctors that were prescribing ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine when that wasn't. I mean,
you can reach a general consensus though, and but I'll just say, like, with regards to that, like, that's what is already happening. Like, doctors already don't just do willy-nilly abortions.
Right.
Like all this stuff that you want, like, oh, we should be like considered in how we do this. That happens. We don't need Republicans to pass legislation to make sure that happens, and we don't need a new sort of body of law to call doctors murderers, like you put it, if they decide that actually in this case we do need to go and have an abortion. Like all this stuff is thought of by doctors. We don't need any fucking politicians in on it. And anybody who, I'm sorry, like even using the word murder like that, like I saw this too much in people I grew up with. You're fucking on the wrong scent. Like that you care about abortion and that you're like thinking about abortion in these terms and you're a guy. Like I think you just gotta pause and you gotta like reset and go elsewhere.
Yes. My point just about that though was like there are always going to be some doctors who have bad politics and who may not necessarily align with how we agree that they should practice what they're doing. But no doctor wants to be prosecuted for murder. And no doctor is willingly killing a fetus that is viable outside of the womb for some sort of nefarious political agenda. It's just not happening. It's just not.
Like this is just not an area that needs legislative attention.
Yeah.
And it's like the world's fucking burning and we're talking about how we can like, put the eyes of the state on pregnant women. And it's ridiculous.
Yep. All right, guys, no more time for calls. Going to read some IMs and get out of here. Moody Monkey said, let us be clear. In the end, it will not be doctors called murderers. It will be women and mothers. I mean,
both.
It's both.
Yeah.
Look
and
up
the
what
people who
happened to
help the
Dr.
women,
Tiller.
like, yeah.
KS1, does a ban at X number of weeks mean it's federal law that it's legal until that time? No. I don't know if that's true.
It would will have their own leeway on that.
It would depend on, yeah, exactly, who crafts that legislation. Either way, some sort of federal legislation on that front would be a scary proposition.
Yeah, I'm not supporting it. I'm not supporting Trump's. We're going to come to any Democrats that are going to willing to work with him on that. I don't trust this. Current configuration.